Hello, welcome to another episode of Scryfall Shenanigans. So I thought we'd go back quite a bit in time to Arabian Nights. So this is the first expansion set. So prior to this there were 3 sets, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited. But this is the first of the so-called expansion sets. Now I was going to do a bit of preamble here about Arabian Nights, but I decided not to in the end because it would rather deflect from what this series is really about. So I'm just going to include the link to MTGWiki in the description so you can check it out yourself, because I was going to go into all sorts of things about rarity breakdown, but it gets pretty complicated. But just suffice to say, back then the rarity breakdown was slightly more complicated than it is now, and so when we're using a tool like Scryfall, effectively the cards have been sort of funneled into the conventional rarity structure. And this is important in a moment because, as people that are very familiar with Magic sets may know, in the case of artifacts, actually, you'll probably notice if you look at certain early sets in Magic's history with artifacts, it was pretty unusual for an artifact to appear, if at all, at common. So you didn't always see that. So I just thought I'd bring that up because we'll see that when we look at these in a moment. But you've just got to remember with the early sets, it's not a straight thing of being uncommons, rares. Technically, there's no rare designation in terms of the sheets. There's a common sheet, there's an uncommon sheet, but within the uncommon and the common and uncommon sheet, there's separate occurrences, and you'll see it written out as something like 1 at C11 or 16 at C4. So what that means is, in the case of say 16 at C4, that means that there are 16 cards. So 16 of the common cards, 16 of the 27 common cards. Those 16, there are 4 of those out of that 16 on a sheet. And with uncommons, you'll see things like 1 at U4, 17 at U2, 33 at U2. So 33 at U2 just means on an uncommon sheet, there's 2 out of those 33 on there. So from that you can get a rough idea about what's going on by looking at the sort of combinations of numbers, so the number of actual cards that they're trying to put into sheets, and the fact that there's 8 cards in a pack, and within those 8 cards there would be 6 commons and 2 uncommons in the packs itself. And the booster boxes contain 16 booster packs. You can sort of start to work out, probabilities of certain cards appearing in a box or in a pack or whatever. So it's a real interesting, if you like, probabilities, and I'm trying to think of the term in Magic for that, but just basically the likelihood of you getting certain cards. Now, because of that, you'll probably gather that when you're talking about rarities in this set, one of the uncommons classifications is considered to be rare. Considered to be the rarest set, and that's the U2 one. So 33 at U2 are considered to be the rares of the set. But like I said, it's more complicated than that. It's not as straightforward. Anybody that knows their history will also know that these originally were designed to have different backs on them as well than the standard Magic packs. They were going to have a yellow on pink card back. So artifacts of Arabian Nights. So we have 14 here. I'm just going to rattle these off. We'll go through individually and we'll look down them slightly more blown up in a moment. But I'm just going to read out the names because sometimes it's a bit difficult to see. So we've got Brass Man, Jewel Bird, City in a Bottle, Jandor's Saddlebags, Ebony Horse, Bottle of Suleiman, I think that is, Dancing Scimitar, Flying Carpet, Sandals of Abdullah, Ring of Maruf, even though I'm having trouble reading them, Jandor's Ring, Pyramids, Aladdin's Ring, and Aladdin's Lamp. There. Okay, and those were in, you probably noticed they're in increasing CMC. Look at that. Yeah. So you get these interesting things like this back then. So that's not, that's just how they did 10 back then. Yeah. So we'll probably see that when we start to look at the errated stuff. So this is the order, and we can see the cards a bit larger here as well, and probably better, along with the errated bit, so it'd be handy for going through that section. And then we'll start to look at some of the tag side of things in a moment. So I've got these in price order. So most expensive one in the set, 391. And I don't know how much people will use. These are really useful, like, you know, related searches. Permanents affected by City in a Bottle. So you'll find all the cards have these really cool related searches. And I know when we did the Special Land Ahoy episode, yeah, I was going down through the different artists as well for those, which is really useful. So City in a Bottle. All cards from Arabian Nights must be discarded from play, except for City in a Bottle. While City in a Bottle is in play, know that no further cards from Arabian Nights can be played. And so you can see here, slightly rearranged in the errata. It's part of the reserve list. We'll probably find there's quite a few here, if not all, that are actually on the reserve list. And yeah, off the top of my head, yeah, I'm not going to even attempt to try and remember what is and isn't on the reserved list from back then. We've got Ring of Maruf. Instead of drawing a card from the top of your library, select one of your cards from outside the game. This card can be any card you have that you're not using in your deck, or that for some reason has left the game. Ring of Maruf is removed from the game entirely after use. And the other thing you'll notice, you've got things like Continuous Artifact and Mono Artifact as well. So you can see here it's errated slightly, so you've got 5 tap and exile. Next time you draw a card this turn, instead put a card in you own from outside the game into your hand. It's been simplified there. Pyramids. So that's so we're still way up in the $100 here. Yeah, so a modal card, slightly worded differently here. 2, prevents a land from being destroyed or removes an enchantment from any land, referred to as a poly artifact here. So lots of really interesting types, and you can see these are all just now referred to as artifact, but you know, over time these have become referred to within that as other things. So you think of this like as a modal artifact. So you can see how this has been changed accordingly. So 2, choose 1, destroy target aura. So here, though there were enchantments that enchanted things, as we saw I think previously when we were looking at, was it Mirage? Yeah, I can't remember, Mirage or Tempest. Here, you know, they talk about enchant land or enchant creature. And it just says on the enchantment type, you know, words to that effect along the type. So when it's been errated, it now mentions auras. So you know, if you've got an aura now, it's enchantment aura, and just regular enchantments are just enchantment. And then this other thing, the next time target land would be destroyed this turn, remove all damage marked on it instead. Aladdin's lamp. So yeah, you can see here. And then we've got, so another mono artifact. So this is X and tap. Instead of drawing a card from the top of your library, draw X cards, but use only one to put in your hand. You must shuffle the leftover cards and put them at the bottom of your library. And so here you've got extra things here, like, X can't be 0. And then it clarifies here in a random order. You can see that. I was reprinted in 4th edition. These early ones. I was reprinted online. So far, yeah, this would be in its this form $69, but there is a 28-cent version of it. The revised edition is 85. I think I've said it's revised, and you really notice these when if you've ever opened any revised, actually, just how washed out they do look. In fact, I'm surprised the scan. The 4th edition one looks even more washed out for whatever reason, but yeah, I've always assumed that revised was the most washed out. You can see that it's interesting, isn't it? See there's almost a completely different shade. But I suppose if you focus on the actual artifact border, that brown thing, then it's a bit more noticeable, the differences. Okay, Aladdin's ring. 8, do 4 damage to any target. 8 to cast. That's pretty straightforward. It's been errated there. It's been reprinted quite a few times. And yeah, had some cool artwork changes as well. If you wanted it in this form, again, yeah, there is a copy in 4th edition. It's been reprinted in 5th, had new artwork. 6th, same artwork. 7th. This is pretty cool artwork, and of course in 7th there were foils kicking around as well. So yeah, I've always liked this dancing scimitar. 4 to cast. It's a 1/5 with flying. Artifact creature spirit, that's been changed too. And yeah, quite a few different versions of this in terms of, well, printed in different sets, but it's 9th the artwork changed, but no, I do like this. The artwork looks pretty nice in classic 6th edition, actually. Again, I still want to know how much the scan is representative of the actual card in paper, but yeah. But that's going to be closest, I suppose, to the the look of the original. Brass Man. It's artifact creature construct now. 1 to cast. Does not untap as normal. You must pay 1 during your untap phase to untap it. So that's been sort of broken down a little bit. Here you can see when it's been errated. That's an online one. 4th edition, $42 in Arabian Nights. There's a revised one. Bottle of cinnamon. You can see pretty detailed here. So let's have a look. They're trying to squeeze that in, aren't they? So 1, flip a coin. With opponents calling heads or tails while coin is in the air. If the flip ends up in the opponent's favour, Bottle of Cinnamon does 5 damage to you. Otherwise, a 5/5 flying djinn immediately comes into play on your side. Use a counter to represent djinn. Djinn is treated exactly like a normal artifact creature, except that if it leaves the play, it is removed from the game entirely. no matter how the flip turns out, bottle of cinnamon is discarded after use. You can see as well that has a feeling that that's been compressed quite considerably to try and fit that in. But the errated one is more succinct. So 1 sacrifice, bottle of cinnamon, flip a coin. If you win the flip, create a 5/5 colourless djinn artifact creature token with flying. So it's a bit more specific here, I think, with the type of creature. If you lose the flip, bottle of cinnamon deals 5 damage to you. So it doesn't have to do the bit about saying, oh, you could use a token for that, or a counter. Yeah, use a counter to represent djinn. And so once you start using terms like this, with tokens, it's known that when it leaves the game, it's removed from the game entirely. It doesn't go into the graveyard, so there's no need to spell that out. Reprinted a few times. $42 its original form. Jandor's Saddlebags. 2 to cast, 3 tap, untap a creature, or 3 untap a creature as it is here, and then they just got the untap symbol here. Anything else to really add there? You can see it's been reprinted again a few times. It's rather a sad looking horse or pony. Is that looking down at all of that? Have I got to carry all of that? That's funny. Ebony horse. 3 to cast, 2 remove one of your attacking creatures from combat. Treat as if the creature never attacks, except the defender is assigned to block it. Cannot choose to block another creature. So adding a tap symbol in the errata text, untap target attacking creature control for any combat damage that will be dealt to it and dealt by that creature this turn. So a more up-to-date way of phrasing that. Yep, reprinted a few times. Jandor's Ring. So 29 versus 30. It is available in the revised edition for 70 cents. Six to cast, 2, discard a card you just drew from your library and draw another card to replace it. You can see how that's been errated. Flying Carpet. Looks like this has been reprinted quite a few times. 4 to cast, 2, gives 1 creature flying ability until end of turn. If that creature is destroyed before end of turn, so is Flying Carpeted. Flying Carpet. So errated to 2 tap, target creature gains flying until end of turn. Sandals of Abdullah, only ever printed in Arabian Nights. 4 to cast. So this for 2 gives 1 creature Island Walk ability until end of turn. If that creature is destroyed before end of turn, so are Sandals. So here changed to 2 tap. Target creature gains Island Walk until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, destroy Sandals of Abdullah. And then there's some reminder there about exactly what Island Walk is. And then we've got Jewel Bird, which is banned in Legacy, Vintage, Commander and Oathbreaker, not legal in anything else. It was actually reprinted in Chronicles, even though it's not been reprinted in other core sets. It was printed in one early sort of aggregate set, compilation set, for 38 cents. The original was $25. So draw a card and exchange your bird for your contribution to the ante. Your former contribution goes to your graveyard. Remove this card from your deck before playing if you are not playing for an ante. So yeah, so all anti-cards are banned, and it's basically, this has still been errated, so banned from these formats. Remove dual card from your deck before playing if you're not playing for anti. Tap anti-dual bird. If you do, put all other cards you own from the anti into your graveyard, then draw a card. So that's where you would sort of put up a card before the start of the game to say, if I lose this match, you get my card, basically. So they had cards that sort of interacted with that early rule in Magic. Obviously they realised that, you know, losing cards in games made people very sad. So yeah, it was swiftly dealt with. So a couple of things to notice here overall is that, you know, we have specific references to sets, and we also have a reference to the ante. So there's no artifacts at commons in this set, or things that are classed as commons. And I think I mentioned that at the start, is that if you go through early sets in Magic, before a certain point, you'll notice there's quite a paucity of artifacts at common. Or at least that's what I believe to be true. If I've got that wrong there, you can correct me, but yeah, that's my understanding. So yeah, 4 commons: Brassman, Jewel Bird, Flying Carpet, Sandals of Abdullah. I'm not going to give you the individual. Yeah, this was a C what one at whatever. Yeah, because I don't know those. I don't know if it even marks them here. Probably not. Oh yeah, so reworded search triggers only once at the beginning of upkeep. Instead of being an activated ability able to use any time during your upkeep, you can no longer make infinite combos with this ability. Yeah. Okay. Doesn't untap. Okay, so yeah, this is often used in Magic. You'll see it on, so it's a way of, yeah, best way to say this. So supposing, let's go in here and do my usual is first printing. So we can see that first printing of basalt monolith. So yeah, if you think about the way powerful cards, or how certain powerful cards have appeared in Magic's history, and then how they deal with that, or dial them back, or dial back the concept. So, you know, you might have a card where it generates a ridiculous amount of, or above the normal amount of mana. So what do you do? Or do you play around with casting costs? That's one way. And you've seen over the years, if you think about something like, like Black Lotus, you know, there's been lots of different Lotuses where obviously they're trying to dial back the power, and they play around with things like the casting cost and various other things. Well, another way you can deal with that on certain cards is to make it so that it doesn't untap during you know, the next untap phase, or an untap phase, or the card itself has a way of untapping the so, you know, you tap the card, so if the card becomes tapped, it doesn't untap during the usual untap phase, but there's a mechanism by which it can be untapped. So yeah, the point here I'm trying to make, I suppose, is that yeah, there's some shenanigans you can do with tapping and untapping, which is either saying this card doesn't untap once it's tapped, and then there's a way to untap it, or it untaps. It doesn't untap during during your next untap step. So it sort of untaps every other, every other turn, I suppose, is what I'm trying to think of. And you can see here, these are all the ones where it doesn't untap during the untap step. And then see here, you can see that. So that there's a mechanism on these cards by which there's a way of untapping them. So I think going through them, I'm just seeing if within this category there's any that do the alternate untapping. I don't think so. I think they're all does not untap, and then there's a condition to untap them. I think the ones I'm thinking of that do that, you're able to use them every other turn. There's some lands like that, isn't there? I think. Yeah. But yeah, with Basalt Monoliths, this is a great example of, so 3 to cast. Oh, great, you can tap it for 3 colourless mana. Oh, hang on. You've got to put 3 into it every time you want, to get it to untap, because it doesn't untap during your untap step. Now, you might look at it and go, well, wouldn't, how is that really helping me? So you get to use it once. It comes into play, you can tap, so it's tapped down. Okay, so you're going to spend 3 mana to untap it, and then it's going to generate 3 mana. But of course, what could have happened is you could have had that mana available on the previous turn, but you didn't want to spend it on anything. So you can, it's like using what is like a mana sink, I suppose. The other thing is there might be a way of untapping it without using this as well. In there, so yeah. But it's interesting to think about how how do these untap, and is there a way of doing it a different way that makes it more powerful? Effectively circumvents the dialing back effect on there. So yeah, interesting things to think about for those sort of cards. But as I've pointed out, that whole doesn't untap thing can turn up in slightly different ways as well. So Dual Bird. Yeah, this card is exchanged for entire contribution to the ante. This means that it raises all the cards if you have more than one already contributed. Antimatter's Legacy. Interesting. Wonder what that is. Anybody know? If you do, put it in the comment section, but I'm not too sure. Does it just mean... Yeah, I don't know then. So it looks like... Yeah, so there's a number of cards here that reference anti. I suppose, is it the case of the other cards? It looks like all of these, so either they're anti-cards or they involve you in either wrecking the card in some way or modifying it. Yeah. Looks like it could be that. Interesting. Yeah, I remember these double masters. As you create your deck, circle 2 of the colours below. Click this card into the battlefield. Tap, add 1 mana of either of the circled colours. Yeah, so it looks like it's that, isn't it? It's either cards that you potentially could lose, cards that you tear up, or cards you write on, something like that. Flying carpet. Yeah, evasion and gives flying. It's not really, I mean, what I'm curious about actually is that like how common is that on an artifact? Over the years, how has that changed? End of turn, that is. So if I net off creatures. What happened there? Don't know what went wrong there, but never mind. So we've got things like Whalebone Glider, Chariot of the Sun, Power Matrix. Oh yeah. Oh, this, yes, that's right. Target creature gets +1/+1 and gains flying. First strike and trample until end of turn. Awesome. Yeah, I forgot about that. I think I have one of these somewhere, maybe, I don't know. Oh, it's a Praetor flagship. And there's the Eldrazi Monument. So you can see there's sort of lots of different ways this comes about. So you've got, you know, cards where it targets a creature. Cards where it's sort of across the board. You can see creatures you control. And then artifacts that are equipment. So you're equipping it to the creature. And of course, again, equipment didn't appear until later, a lot later in Magic's history. But probably most people recognise things like kite sail. Interesting. Nuric hover sail. Oh yeah, there's skin wing. So this was one of these living weapons where it came into play with its own token. So it could be, it was immediately a creature. Black gem creature token. And you've got things like cobbled wings. And it's probably when people think of things giving other things flying, or spells, sorry, giving things flying. There's I'm just trying to think. I'm not going to say it before I do because I always mess up, but I can already see in my head a couple of cards in blue that that do that. So again, it's not in some ways not dissimilar to certain artifacts and certain pieces of equipment. You've got enchantments and auras here. Some of these you can see with the auras, it's you're putting it on a creature, you're enchanting a creature. And then there's the other ones where it's just all creatures. I'm trying to think if there's any here that says like target creature. Yeah, target creature gains flying as long as you control any covered land. Target creature is now a flying creature. That's an aura. I'm assuming these would be all auras rather than just an enchantment that can then go, oh, I want to make that, and I want to make that one, and then that one. Oh, yeah, I remember Zephyr Charge from... Yeah, so, okay, that's a good example there, yeah. So this is one where you can do that. So it's not an aura, but you can, for a cost, target a creature and give it flying. So you can see within enchantments how the different ways it was done with artifacts might be covered. So that's pretty cool. And then you've got things like, spot. Oh, that's the other one I was trying to think of, is levitation, which is all... Yeah, I think I did see that, didn't I? Levitation. And then if I was to do... instance, so you've got things like jump and leap. I think it's something more recent, maybe. Real formation. There's updraft. Are there any sorceries that do it? There are. Well, you can see it coming. Can't play it as a combat trick, I don't think. No. Okay. Okay, Sandals of Abdullah. So yeah, namesake spell, gives Island Walk. Virtual legendary. So yeah, a number of cards you can see by the way they're named. You think, well, actually they should really be a legendary card. So this card represents one of a kind creature or object and could conceivably have been legendary. Usually cards are in this category because they were printed before legendary existed or have a mechanical need not to be legendary. There's something called a buff pact, whatever that is. Let's have a look at that. Something I'm totally not familiar with. Yeah, okay, so it's tied. So the buffing is tied to something. Like a pact there. Destroy any non-wall creature, receive combat damage from the target creature this turn. If a target creature leaves play, bury acidic dagger, uses ability only before defense is chosen. Target creature gets +2/+2 and then at the end of turn. If that creature leaves play this turn, bury, yep, so yeah, I see. Okay. So that's called a buff pact. This looks interesting. See how well, that's pretty unusual. First strike. Tap. Target dwarf gains first strike and gets +2/+0 until end of turn. If that dwarf leaves play this turn, bury Heartwolf. Uses ability only when attack or defense is announced. Oh, yeah, it's that Homelands. So, I'm looking to see if these have ever been reprinted much. Because, you can notice, look, that in terms of their first printings, it's an idea that's never been pursued, if you believe the tagging, beyond Mirage, in terms of new cards. So we've got, what's this? Arabian Nights. This is the dark, isn't it, I think? Yeah. This will be Fallen Empires, Ice Age, Homelands, and then, yeah, Mirage. So if I quickly go into full, so Arabian Nights, that was Chronicles, just seeing which is, okay. That was on a time spiral, time shifted card. I do like the artwork. So for the cast. Okay. That was in, yeah, I thought I recognised that from somewhere. It was in the Cold Snap theme deck. I'm assuming it must have been, maybe it was in that mono white one that I've got. Okay, so yeah, pretty slim on the ground. So, yeah, time spiral, time shifted. Huh. Right, moving on. I think this could turn into quite a long episode, but I'm thoroughly enjoying this myself. Okay, City in a Bottle. Maybe I'll try and speed it up a little bit. Symmetrical, okay. Oh yeah, because it's all cards in play. Set matters. Unique CR reference, what's that? Oh, there's an entire rule in the CR just to cover this card and no other card. Okay. 63 of those. State trigger. Cards that use a state trigger, which is particular and rare kind of trigger. Okay, let's have a look at state triggers then. That's the obvious one to go to. Is one's printing. Okay, state triggers. So we'll look through history here. Oh, I see, yeah, so it's, yeah, I got it. So I need to wanted to look at quite a few of them before I comment. So, yeah, so when. So it looks like, yeah, a lot of them have this when. Yeah. So, yeah, obviously when a certain state is met, then they trigger. Okay. I can see that. Golgothian Silex, all cards from the Antiquities expansion. Apocalypse Chime, which one did that do? That was Homelands. That looks, yeah, like an one. Jandor's Saddlebags. Oh, I was going to just check on that. Anytime a player receives priority to cast spells or activate abilities, check to see whether any permanents on the battlefield were originally printed in Arabian Nights expansion, even if the physical card representing that permanent is a reprint. Oh, that's interesting. With a different expansion symbol. If there are any such permanents, the ability will trigger and those permanents will be sacrificed. I didn't think of that, actually, yeah. Token creatures and counters created by Arabian Nights are not removed. Oh, okay. Related to a Jandor's ring, yep, okay. Another virtual legendary. Namesake spell, untap a creature. Okay. I mean, all pretty straightforward. Yeah. Cause act of treason. So yeah, there's some of those spells where it untaps them so you can, you steal something and so it needs to untap it so you can use it. Those sort of spells would have that on it. So those red ones where you pinch it for a turn or whatever. Now we should mention Fog Selective, okay. Another untapper. Similar to Reconnaissance. Okay. That's an enchantment. It's pretty cool. So 1 to cast, 0 to activate. Remove target attacking creature you control from combat and untap it. Does it? If you activate during the end of combat, the creature will untap after it deals combat damage. Interesting. Does not undo any effects which triggered on declaration of attackers or blockers. Interesting. Okay, selective fog. 65 selective fogs. Telekinesis, Faint, Lady Evangela. Yeah. Heavy Fog. Snag. Serene Sunset. Luminescence. So there's all sorts of variants here. I remember Tangle Snap from Zendikar. selected on the creatures without trample. Oh, there's Moon Mist. Fog of War. Suleiman. The coin is flipped on resolution and not on declaration of the ability. Okay. Coin flip egg. Artifacts are to be sacrificed to do something. Yep. Well, loads of interesting ones in there actually. You got things like Chromatic Star and Grace Capsule, Dark Sphere, of course. Yeah, lots of sort of these nice old artifacts. And the capsules and spell bombs. And the eyes as well. They're an interesting set of mana rocks where you could, just tap them conventionally for colours of mana, but also you could sack them to generate the same colour as well. So, implements. Oh, yeah, unprinted token. So there's a number of cards that generate a token that's not been printed. I mean, that's fun because you can create your own tokens, which I've done before. It's quite good fun to create a token and have your artwork maybe. Either your own artwork or something you've put together or pull down from somewhere. I used to use ones which had sort of classic, like alchemical stuff or old printings of things. I remember generating some sort of ghost tokens like that, or something along those lines. Spirit tokens, spirit tokens. During, was it Innistrad Dark Ascension period, and getting some sort of really old school artwork, like that looked like I'm trying to think what they're called now, like wood carving type things of someone like raising a spirit from a graveyard, that sort of thing. So yeah, Ensorced Scimitar is, I suppose, the equipment version of this. Delayed replacement effect, another virtual legendary. Mangora's Tome. Okay. So I'll just have a quick look at that. 31 delayed replacement effects. So that's got a number of different things. Oh yeah, General's Regalia. Isn't that, there's a copy of Squee in there with that as a when wearing that, with Squee wearing that. But I was interested in these wishes. Yeah, so these are effects which you can bring cards in from outside the game. So, not surprisingly named after the wishes here from Judgment. So instance, a card from outside the game. And yeah, this one's interesting because it's any card, but you lose half your life rounded up. Sorcery, creature or land, instant, any card, but you lose half life. And then this one, which was artifact or enchantment. Oh yeah, spawn spider of Ilmog. I mean, obviously they have to be very careful when they're doing stuff like this. And in the, I don't know if I'm, someone could correct me on this, but in the context of tournament play, that would be what, a card from your sideboard, wouldn't it? I believe, if you're playing like a sealed, not sealed, constructed, where the card would be legal. Outside the game is considered to be sort of part of your sideboard. I think that's right. Anyway, again, you can correct me on that if I'm wrong. Jandor's Ring. It's funny, I expected there to be a lot more rules for all of this stuff, but I suppose most of it is fairly straightforward. It's just maybe costs and combinations of things we don't usually see, but the mechanics of the cards aren't particularly complicated. Discard outlet last drawn. Oh, right, yeah, this is a rummage one, isn't it? Discard your card. And then draw another one, so that's rummaging. Another virtual legendary related to Chandor's saddlebags. Yep. Worse than Jalen. Okay, yep. Collector's Vault and Currency Converter, so they're all better than it. So there's only 4 instances of this tag. Discard out at last drawn. Draw a card and reveal it. Discard a card you drew. You just drew. Okay. Oh yeah, pyramids. Remove or destroy, modal spell, synergy creature land. So is that the first example of a modal spell? Oh no, it would be, yeah. Healing Salve and these two, because yeah, Red Elemental Bark Blast would now be considered to be a modal spell. Okay. So the point at which the words, I suppose, choose appeared is here. So what would that be? Mirage. And then it's not until, so that goes on for quite a while, and then eventually you start to see, and it takes quite a while, where it's sort of laid out in a line. But that's quite a while in Magic before you really start to see that. I'm trying to even remember if I can think of a card in my head where that's the case. Yeah, so you got to these charms, I'm assuming, yeah. For instance, these are laid out as bullet points. But I'm assuming, yeah, when they're errated, then yeah, it's bulleted. Aladdin's ring, another ring. Burn any virtual enemy namesake spell. Yeah, not really. I mean, yeah, there's loads of 796 burn anything, so that could be players, creatures, or planeswalkers. Yeah, it's pretty high cost to do 4 damage. I mean, that's my favourite. Banned in historic. And yeah. But yeah, I do remember there being that big gap, because I suddenly saw it in M10. You know, having got into Magic relatively, I mean, around the time of 10th edition, which was a previous core set 2 years before this, and seeing this card, thinking, God, this is an awesome card, and then realising that actually it hadn't been reprinted in terms of a set since, yeah, the early days of Magic, so like 4th edition. So it was in, you know, Alpha, Beta, Unlimited, Revised, and then, you know, the various other variants like some Magic stuff, 4th edition, and then everything from that point onwards. So special sets like anthologies or the Beatdown, that's Magic the Gathering Online, that's the Master Edition line, and then suddenly like M10. So, I mean, I'm assuming in between that, you know, you're either getting things like shocks for 1, you know, so 2 damage for 1 mana, or, you know, slightly nerfed versions of a 3 damage spell, or slightly more expensive spells that did slightly more damage, but again weren't quite like this. Yeah. Cool card. Aladdin's lamp. If you use more than 1 lamp effect, the second one will end up replacing the card being drawn the first one. Okay. Delayed replacement effect, impulse. Namesake spell. Yep. It's a mana sink. It's funny though, like 10 to cast. And then it's an X spell as well. Wow. Oh, so yeah, impulse. Look at the top end cards and put 1+ of them into your hand, not to be confused with red pseudo card draw effect. Yeah, we did look at this recently. It's come up before. Yeah, another delayed replacement effect. Okay, so in terms of EDH rep ranking, yeah, Jandal's Saddlebags. I think I have a copy of this somewhere. I just always really like this one, just because I think it's looks really cool. What does that go in? What's your top command? Oh yeah, Doran deck, of course. And yeah, Gentle Saddlebag. 3 untapped target creatures, so obviously useful in any of these decks where it's funny because we were looking at that earlier, weren't we? So if you look, you've got in the set you've got, was it Jandal's Saddlebags? So this is for creatures. But I was talking about, how, where was it? These cards that untapped. We were looking at, off the back of this, we were looking at other things as well beyond just creatures. But here's a creature, and it has its own, ability to, untap it. But outside of that, albeit for the cost of 3, there are cards which can do that. And obviously this is useful in decks where maybe you want to do that outside of any inherent ability that it has on it. Or just handy there to be able to untap something that's got tapped through another means. If you look at the high synergy cards, and then of course there are other cards that may be cheaper to do or more flexible, do a similar thing. It's another possibility. And something I keep meaning to explore. I do apologise. I've threatened to go into it quite a few times, never got around to it. But yeah, this is cool. Cube Cobra. I haven't played around with it properly yet, and I don't always like using stuff until I really start to get my head around things. But I did find that this synergistic cards thing is pretty cool in here. Yeah. So yeah, I need to seriously play around with this. Got no excuses apart from just finding time to do it. But yeah. Okay, so there we have it. Hopefully you enjoyed that. It's probably a rather long video, but I have a bit of a soft spot for artifacts, particularly older stuff like this, and I just couldn't resist. Bit of Magic the Gathering eye candy, and looking to see if there was anything really sort of curious tag-wise or rules-wise on these, and seeing where we end up. So thanks once again for watching. Bye for now, and I will catch you in a future episode.